everybody, and let's make a start by inviting Angelika, because we can't ask Angelika unless Angelika is here, and just waiting for Angelika to join us. Good afternoon.
Hello, Stephen. Hello, everybody else.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Glad we can hear each other. This technology, when it works, is brilliant, and we're working, so that's good. So welcome to Leon and welcome to Roland, and this is episode 4. So welcome to episode 4 of Ask Angelika, where Angelika answers questions on the German language. Good afternoon, Angelika.
Good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon, whoever else is watching.
That's
so
good.
Roland, Leon, and anybody who's watching at another time.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Now, questions are submitted before the broadcast starts, and they come from various places. And our first question this week is, I'll read it to you, Angelika. After episode 3, Claire asked on Facebook whether Z plus first name was still common.
Yes, if you remember in the last episode, I spoke about how you introduce yourself to Germans, and it was always the safest bet is to introduce yourself first name, surname. So I would say, ich heiße Angelika Davey, because then I could take the cue from the Germans, whether they want to be formal and call me Frau Davey and Sie, or whether they wanted to be informal with Du and Angelika.
Mm-hmm.
And Claire then said she remembers that people sometimes use the formal Sie plus the first name, and she wanted to know if that's still a common practice in Germany. I can only speak from what I've sort of overheard in shops mainly. Well, because otherwise I don't really see and hear so many Germans speaking to each other who may not know each other. But there are people who have known each other for a long time, and they still really want to stick with a formal you, but they do feel it is after, I'm probably not even exaggerating if I say after 20 years, still using Herr and Frau. So they've gone for a compromise and using Sie plus first name.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to ask you, I would then say, wie geht es Ihnen, Stephen, rather than using Herr Healy. With the elder generation, I could imagine that that's still pretty much there. Younger people, I guess, won't use it so much. They would go straight to first name and Du. I have also heard it the other way around. I have overheard in shops people using Du and surname.
Mm-hmm.
And it is possible that they do that because maybe they're required to use surnames in the shops, but they actually know each other really well. So it sounds very strange. So if we were working together and we were using Du plus surname, and I wanted to know how you were, I would have said, wie geht es dir, Herr Healy? I can't even say it. It seems so strange. So these combinations are still around because it is quite difficult to decide whether to use Du or Sie. I've also actually, since last episode, came across an article from 2 months ago, a German article about how do Germans use Du or Sie online.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the answer there was that, I think it was 37%, it was pretty close to 40% of Germans would use the formal you even when they're talking on Facebook or Twitter or wherever else. And the same goes for if they, even nowadays, if they go into a cafe or a restaurant, just over 50% of Germans would still use the formal you when they're addressing the waitress. Of those who said they didn't, the majority said it would depend on whatever. I don't know what it depends on is, and only a very small percentage, just over 10%, said, nah, we just use Du and be gone with it. So the formal you is definitely still very much there. So if in doubt, stick with a Z or then go for one of the compromises if you feel like it.
Totally understood. Right. Okay. Now, this is episode 4, but we managed to lose episode 2, and there's a question in episode 2 that we're going to revisit now. I'm just going to paste the question in, and the question's too long at the moment. This is live, the question's too long. I'm just going to get a shorter version of it and hopefully paste that successfully and get rid of all that. So the question is there a good strategy to learn German according to the German language structure configuration to people who want to develop all 4 macro skills? Can we just say what the 4 macro skills are first?
I think he was talking about the 4 skills that when you're learning a language, you don't just learn German or English, you learn the reading, writing, speaking and listening.
Right.
And was there a strategy? And my initial thought was, yeah, well, for example, it's listening in German is really easy, and writing because you spell it like you say it.
Mm-hmm.
But that actually doesn't apply to every nationality. So I think the biggest problem with this is that it depends a lot on what your native language is. If I said to you as an English person, you just write it how you say it, well, you know from English language that isn't the case at all. And so therefore it is probably pretty difficult. If you hear the ow sound in English, mm-hmm. How do you spell it? O-U-G-H, O-W. So how would you transfer that to German?
Right.
So that strategy may not work for an English speaker, but it may work for another nationality, which of course I can't speak for now because I don't know. I don't think there is a general strategy. I think it's more the case of you as a native speaker will need to find out where the similarities are with when you learn German or any language really, where things work well and where things don't work well. I remember I once did to my shame, only 10-week evening class in Spanish. Mm-hmm. And recognized some of the things were easier for me to learn than for others. So right. when we did the alphabet, yeah, I wrote most of it down in German because there were more similarities for me, and I thought, oh yeah, I recognize that. And there were things that I didn't struggle with, where English speakers struggled with, and vice versa. So a lot of it really depends on from where you're coming from when you're learning German. So it's a case of, I'm afraid, you just have to learn all 4 skills. Make sure you do learn your reading, writing, speaking and listening. And if you find anything that matches your language, your native language, or that makes it a bit easier, then that's even better.
Which of the 4 skills is easiest to learn first?
It's usually the reading.
Mm-hmm.
People manage to read things the best. That's the first bit. Then comes the listening, and then the writing, because when you're writing, you still have time to think about it. So you start writing a sentence, and usually, especially when you do homework or anything like this, you still have time and you can check again. If you write an email in German, you can still check words, a spell check may pick things up. It's the speaking one that gets everybody. Doesn't matter which language you learn, everybody finds the speaking the hardest. People can read books in the other language, but won't be able to string a sentence together. The fear factor is there as well, of course.
It is. I mean, on the reading side, Kindle, you can put the German language onto the Kindle and you can have virtually a live translation, can't you? So that helps a little.
That helps, but even if you read a magazine or a newspaper, okay, if you're reading something really difficult, if you're trying the Financial Times when you're a beginner in learning English, yeah, then of course you won't be able to understand anything. But if you read a foreign text, you may be able to get the gist of it, even if you don't actually understand every word. But when you're talking, you're just sitting there and you think like, now, word order. How did it go again? Oh, and what was the past tense again of that? And before you even get your sentence together, the conversation has moved on to topic number 10 by then.
Yeah. So you've got to build your confidence when you're speaking. Yeah. And that comes from practice?
That comes from practice. And in speaking, the one thing I always encourage people is, at that precise moment, don't worry about grammar. Go ahead and speak. If you're in a cafe and you wanted to order a cup of coffee and a piece of cake, I can assure you the waitress will only listen out for certain keywords. A is cafe, right? Okay, so he doesn't want tea. And B would be the amount. Yeah, did you want one cup or two? And did you want a piece of cake or did you want 2 pieces of cake? Nobody would turn down an order because you got the grammar wrong.
True.
They probably wouldn't even notice it. Most of the times we hear what we want to hear. So whether you get your der, die, das, dem, den or whatever wrong, most of the times the other people wouldn't even notice it. So when you're speaking, ignore word order, sub the work order, ignore the grammar. If you speak present tense when it should be past tense, it doesn't matter, as long as you speak and the others will understand you.
I found that so. Right, and a question for the next question, a final question there from our audience. Hang on. Right, okay, I'll read it out. I just started dabbling in German. I noticed a curious thing. I was hoping someone could explain, and that would be yourself. Why are some words in the middle of a sentence capitalized, like Wasser, W-A-S-S-E-R? Why? Why have capitals?
Yes, why? Now, first of all, we have capitals just like in English at the beginning of the sentence, and names have got capital letters as well. But then we also have nouns as capital letters. And sometimes that's actually really useful, especially in German, because sometimes Wasser is not a good example now, but some nouns can also be verbs.
Okay.
I can think of one example. I can't think of the sentence now, but I know there sometimes these things float on Facebook where you have these weird sentences where some of the words have been spelled in a capital letter and then the next sentence it hasn't. And it completely changed the meaning of the sentence. The particular word was spinnen. Now, spinnen with a capital S means spiders.
Yes.
Spinnen as a verb, well, it can actually mean to spin, but it's usually meant with you're stupid or you're mad or what the hell are you on about? Yeah. So when you're talking, obviously people usually know what they're meant because it's also the tone of the voice that tells you. Yeah. But when you read a sentence, it is the capitalization that will then tell you what that word means.
So if somebody says spinnen, the difference between stupid spies and stupid is all in the capital.
Yes, that probably be quite easy. That could also mean, by the way, that they're spinning their web. So just having those 2 words could mean all sorts of things. But yes, it is the biggest problem. A lot of, I can only speak for English people now. It's possible that other foreign nationals have the same problem, is because we don't have the capital letters and because what you have learned at school has been so long ago, we don't normally go around talking about, oh, look, there's a noun and there's a verb. So when people come in lesson to me for the first time and they hear about why is a capital letter, and I say, oh, well, because nouns are capitalized. Yes. What's a noun? Yeah, because they forgot. Yeah, we do things automatically. So a noun is a thing or an item. It's the word where you may not, but you could put the word the in front of it. And of course, that then leads us to the next bit, that the, of course, can be 3 different words or even 12 or 16 or whatever.
Die, der, das.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's 2 of the main differences we've covered today. One is the formal and informal you.
Yeah.
And the second is the gender of nouns, neither of which appear in English. Now, that's the formal part of this Ask Angelika 4. Angelika can relax now. Leon and Roland, would either of you like to come on camera? If you would, we're not going to force anybody, but if you just say yes in the chat. That's very fair, Roland. We look forward to seeing you on Ask Angelika 5, which will be in 2 weeks' time. Friday, 2 o'clock in 2 weeks' time will be Angelika 5, and hopefully we'll have a recording from Angelika 4 too. Have we any events coming up to talk about? No. It's not too. All right. Okay. Thank you, Lynn. There is, just to pre-warn everybody. Ask Angelika and Angelika's German tuition and translation have an annual carol concert in German. Would you like to just take a minute to speak about that?
Oh, I can do that one. Although we've got, luckily we still have a few weeks. I don't think anybody wants to sing German carols yet.
No, but the Christmas things are in the shops.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. No, this must be our 4th year now. I don't know, 4th or 5th year that we're meeting in December. Which of course only applies to the local people. So if Roland would have his voice back by then, he may like to join us. And we get together, one of my students plays the guitar, and we just have a great evening of singing German carols instead of English carols. And the event is free, so if anybody is local, living in Wiltshire, close to Southwick, where we're meeting, they're very welcome. I can't remember the date now. Is it the 14th?
We will promote it again.
I need to check again.
And
14th, I think, of December. It's a Wednesday anyway.
Yeah.
And it's part of my charity events. I do about 3 to 4 charity events a year where the event is free. I supply the venue and pay for the room and everything. And we raise money for whichever charity I support, which this year is the Wheelchair Air Ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
So we just had a really good board game evening, was that last week? 2 weeks ago, where we played board games just in German, and people could join in depending on how good their German was. So they may have only played Ludo because they could count to 6 in German, or they played Scrabble.
Which
with a bit of cheating, apparently.
No. It lasted 2 hours. A game of Scrabble lasting 2 hours. It had to be in German. One of the players I play with on a regular basis, and but we play English Scrabble. So it was a pleasant change to play Scrabble in German. No, it wasn't me cheating. We're not going to say who, because this is going to go up on YouTube and Facebook. So let's just say that he had help, and the person who helped him wasn't me, but you can see them.
Really? Okay. Let's move on then to the other charity event, because we also have started last 3 years now to do a Skittles evening. And obviously there isn't much German talking, so it's more a fun event. But we did have all the counting in German, and we talked a bit about how Skittles is played in Germany, and we had a Kegelkönig.
Mm-hmm.
And we also had I've forgotten now what the Skittle person is called who loses. There was a word as well. Oh, Pudelkönig, yeah, Pudelkönig. So we had one each of those as well. Just a bit of fun evening, good get together, and we raised some funds for the Wheelchair Air Ambulance.
So we'd like to say thank you to everybody who's watching and who will watch.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you everybody for watching. I look forward to maybe speaking to Leon and Roland or anybody else who would like to join us next time. Otherwise, it's tschüss von mir.
Tschüss von mir auch. Till next time, take care everybody, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.
Bye.
To episode 4 of Ask Angelika, where Angelika answers questions on the German language. Good afternoon, Angelika.
Good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon, whoever else is watching.
That's
so
good.
Roland, Leon, and anybody who's watching at another time.
Yeah. Okay. Right, okay, now questions are submitted before the broadcast starts, and they come from various places. And our first question this week is, I'll read it to you, Angelika. After episode 3, Claire asked on Facebook whether Z plus first name was still common.
Oh, so they've gone for a compromise and using Z plus first name. So if I were to ask you, I would then say, wie geht es Ihnen, Stephen, rather than using Herr Healy. With the elder generation, I could imagine that that's still pretty much there. Younger people, I guess, won't use it so much. They would go straight to first name and du. I have also heard it the other way around. I have overheard in shops people using du and surname. And I can only speak from what I've sort of overheard in shops mainly. Well, because otherwise I don't really see and hear so many Germans speaking to each other who may not know each other. But there are people who have known each other for a long time and they still really want to stick with a formal you, but they do feel it is after, I'm probably not even exaggerating if I say after 20 years, still using hair and...
Hi everybody, and let's make a start by inviting Angelika, because we can't ask Angelika unless Angelika is here, and just waiting for Angelika to join us. Good afternoon.
Hello Stephen, hello everybody else.
Yeah, good afternoon everybody. I'm glad we can hear each other, and this technology, when it works, is brilliant, and we're working, so that's good. So welcome to Leon and welcome to Roland, and this is episode 4. So welcome to...
Yes, if you remember in the last episode, I spoke about how you introduce yourself to Germans, and it was always the safest bet is to introduce yourself, first name, surname. So I would say, ich heiße Angelika Davey, because then I could take the cue from the Germans, whether they want to be formal and call me Frau Davey and Sie, or whether they wanted to be informal with du and Angelika. And Claire then said she remembers that people sometimes use the formal Sie plus the first name, and she wants to know if that's still a common practice in Germany.